Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Tribe Podcast. Today's episode is an interview with Kristos. We were so excited to get him on the podcast to ask him about, protection, and as usual, it goes so many routes and there's so much to talk about. So we got into protection, we got into, quantum leaps and dimensions and just so much stuff that's super interesting. A bunch of advice, of course, from Kristos. And you can't leave out, when you are interviewing Kristos and getting his take on things, you cannot leave out that you need to rethink about things, or, he makes you think about something in a different perspective, in a different way. So we just love the way that came through in this episode, just like in the other episodes. The idea was we thought that this was a really important year to figure out a way to, and we're talking to a witch here, to protect your energy.
Right.
And
absolutely. Yeah.
This came up about empowering yourself from that. But you know what? I think it was a really good way to start. I would love to get your witch perspective on the Travis Scott concert. Did you see that? What is because I think something, but I'm not a witch like you. So I wonder what your perspective is.
Okay. Yeah. Travis Scott. Talking about energy, isn't it? Talking about energy. The thing is that a concert, let's look at it from a technical point. A concert revolves around the artist that we're going to see, to admire, the money we pay for. And by paying money, we agree. I buy a book, I buy a session, I go to a concert, I see a movie. We are in agreement. We're exchanging an energy. Even if I go to a free concert, if I stay there and expose myself to the artist's message, any form, there is an agreement. The moment you go into an agreement, you are accepting the conditions of the energy which is provided. So somebody like Travis Scott, which I have to say I'm not familiar with him at all, because it's not my kind of music and my kind of style of, but he, on one side, what happened in that show is that so many symbolisms were used for the effect of look. Like so many designers, they use pentagrams, they use magic, they use symbolic stuff. I've seen it printed. They like the idea of it. Conscious Travis Scott, with all respect, is too dumb to understand these things. He's not an occultist. He's not somebody who, on purpose, says, now I'm going to go and collect souls or something. Of course not. But this is something so interesting when we talk about symbolism. You see, every symbolic form in the collective response, trigger response, if that is the right word, which means we all associate with the number 666 something. Now it has a complete different meaning, but no, the guy with a pitchfork is the devil. It could also be Poseidon. It could also be Aquaman. No, it's the devil. It depends on what perspective the collective comes. And beside this, it depends very much on the energy of an artist. So an artist like Travis Scott, and from what I could see, is he is a pot stirrer. He lives from aggression. It's very much in the tradition of the last 2 Plutonic years of people who basically said, from Trump to Fox News here, who say, be angry, it's okay, fight, spit, be nasty, it doesn't matter. That is how you express your feeling. when he is on stage, there are people dying around him, and he says, F him up, F him up. See, so you have two elements here. You have a really unrefined artist. Unrefined means somebody who is not in control of the impact he has on people. Because I've been to concerts where we're talking about David Bowie, we talk about Madonna, we talk about Prince, we talk about, who stopped a show when something was out of line. Got it? They are in charge. Say, my house, my rules. So when they see something and say, guys, we need somebody there, you are able to see it. You're not gaslighting your audience. You see, so when people come in, then comes the songs, and then all this, guys, happens within an energy field of symbolism, even if it's just for fashion. You see, but the collective sees it and gets triggered, and activates a belief system. So devil, soul, 666, pentagrams, evil, and then you have an artist who basically says, F him up, and continues like he doesn't know what's going on. It's happening around you. That is what you see in general also. I can make a very loose connection to it when you see old footage of Hitler in Nuremberg at the Zeppelin area, where I lived in Nuremberg for many years, so I've been there. It's a stadium, basically, and you wonder, how did he manage to get people to agree with him? You see, it is an energy form that is comparable to mass hypnosis. When you have a channel, an energy, a position, a sacred geometric, in other words, the position where Hitler stood, for example, it's not just random. There's a very specific reason why he stood there. And from there, he could basically just, start. Travis Scott did the same thing. He did it just with music. He did it with, and he uses his music to release a lot of his anger. I listen to it just to have an idea. It's just angry. It's just angry with no solution. It's just angry. And you're justified in your anger, and because you're justified, just go and beat up anybody around you. And it's not the first time this happened to him. But this is what you say. We see people in art very often, in shows, in using, let's call it occult symbols, who have been used, who have been saturated with energy, with consciousness, with ideologies, right? Why don't we use the swastika anymore? Otherwise, so loosely, because it's actually a powerful symbol of success and money and the sun. Outside of India, no one in his right mind would say, I'm going to use that, because it identifies us as a racist. And the bottom line is, what we experience is the exposure of racism, of homophobia, of anti-trans, anti-woman. And it's really a lot of racism came out, a lot of misogyny came out, you see. And people justify it sometimes in their art, or I don't want to judge it, because everybody's free to do it. But when we wanted to talk about how do you protect yourself in this day and age. You don't need nothing except be sure that you know what you're agreeing to. The best protection, guys, the most easiest is I can listen to something and not agree with it. And that's it, without pushing against it. You see, that is protection in the end, because all the pentagrams and all the evil eyes and all the sage you need when you have put your nose into things that you're against. But when you're against it, you feed it, so you get more of it. So now you need an exorcism suddenly. You see, shouldn't have put your nose in the first place. Very simple.
But also the pentagram, a lot of people directly relate it to like I don't know if you call it black magic or like negative stuff, but it's supposedly upright. It's the Wicca thing, and upside down is when they associate it with the devil, I think.
But you see, it's the association, but it has a complete different meaning, which is when the pentagram shows up, it indicates that we're sending something to the higher sphere. When the pentagram is with a point down, it says we're calling down. We're asking to manifest. That's all it means. We have to thank a lot of idiots online who don't know what they're saying and basically just quacking like parrots, stuff that they don't even understand correctly. And Hollywood. Hollywood did a huge deal of damage to these religions. And you have to understand, because you say Wicca, Lucia, Wicca is an invention of the 20th century. A pagan is not a Wiccan. A Wiccan is not a witch. Like a Catholic is not necessarily a practicing Catholic. I know people who are very much, in their faith, and that doesn't mean they run to church every day, or ask for absolution. Again, it depends very much, again, on the agreement that you make. When you agree with something, even if it's silent, I had people who agreed with ideologies, I have to say, but very silent, in private, and I said, you're still connecting to this thing, That's why I said, if you make a statement, if you make an accusation, you have to back it up. I need evidence, Oh, you see, somebody was eating children in a pizza parlor in the basement. Okay, show it to me. Show it to me. We are now in a day and age where I could make up stuff about you guys, and people would say that Kristos is really right. I mean, he must see something, and already, you're running an avalanche, and you think, how the hell did that happen? But this is, again, what I said in a little introduction when we talked privately. It's the missing inner work, the inner, the willingness to respond so quickly to something just because it kind of sounds logic or it kind of sounds possible. And before you know it, you are being dragged like a tsunami and energy takes you. And that's exactly what happened if we translate energy to Travis Scott. One energy really built up and then it just backfired, basically. It dominoed, you see. But also, why in his concert? Because it happened before. He's used to it. He's used to his shows that you come out bloody, basically, or beaten, or, that some aggression. It's normal. So he carries that effect as an artist. I don't say he does this on purpose, you see, but that's what he represents. That's the energy. Like, you're way too young, but in the 70s, 80s, we had all these hard rock bands, the metal bands. And I tell you, there was mayhem after these shows. I was a child of the punk scene. The punk scene was all about anger, all about element, all about repression. You know what I mean? And look, the people who went punk now are basically the Real Housewives of some goddamn show somewhere. You know what I mean? Caring about their children and their lifestyle and the hairdresser and but that used to be the punk people who represented a certain theme. So there it was, same concept, frustration. We had Thatcher in Europe, bad, But look what came out of it, a movement, creativity, art, a statement. You didn't have to agree, but we have a lot of punk classics. You see what I mean? Nevertheless, it was aggressive. So Travis Scott is not not an innovator here in aggressive concerts. It happens. The other thing is, look, soccer, football, right, in Europe. The one reason why I've never seen a live soccer game, a really important one, is of the aggression that unleashes after that. Okay, guys, you lost. I mean, you know what I mean? It's it's a game. How often have we seen aggressive violence, after something that should be athletic and fun. You see, same idea. The same idea. It's not new, the concept. But the moment we agree with one team, with one artist, I have to be automatically against the other one? Not necessarily, you see. Being for something doesn't mean I have to judge now everybody around me who doesn't do it my way. You see? And that is very much in religion, because that's my forte, of course. I'm an occultist. I study the religions. That's exactly what happens when people finally find themselves. I'm happy for them. They believe in Jesus, and then they judge everybody who doesn't believe in Jesus. You know, missed the boat and the whole journey. You see? And this is why protection begins for me with, wait a minute, let me think, what am I agreeing here with? You see, just because it's on TikTok or on Instagram or on Facebook, you know, look how Facebook is under scrutiny now, because they say we can't even control what's real and what's not real. You see, there is a problem here. So, wait a minute, what am I agreeing with? You know, is there evidence for this agreement? And is there a benefit for this agreement? Does anybody benefit from this? Does it empower anybody? That's what we want. We don't want, sheep, of course. But here we are, you see, here we are, believing in the most abstruse things you can imagine. I mean, if I had the time, I would write a book about all the stupidities I read over the last 2 years. It's mind-blowing. It's really mind-blowing. People, let me say this here, really people who have no ability. They can't see, they can't hear, they don't have you know what I mean? They have no foot in this world. But this is what shocked me the most, is how much conspiracy theorists entered our world. I don't know how that happened. And the most damaging thing that happened to the spiritual community is that it got infiltrated by people who politicized, basically, and used faith and belief and spirituality for political gain and power in the end. You see, that is what we will have to question ourselves later. How the hell did that happen? Because the damage is actually irreversible. You know, because when you agree with something that justifies to either way to limit another person, you know, you can't do this. You can't do this. What benefits you has to benefit everybody else too. Otherwise, it's a judgment, and a judgment these days is based on internalized racism or misogyny or homophobia or transphobia or, you know what I mean? All that stuff. You understand? It's a much more complex experience now to have energy around us, you know? And I work with all these people. What can I do now? How can I get this energy out? Don't get in the first place. That's what my guide said to me many years ago. The best way to get out of a hole is don't get in the first place. You know, and I kept it in my mind. But nevertheless, we're humans, we're interested, right? And sometimes I have to force myself out of the internet, you know, because that is how Uranus now has this huge effect. It's never been easier to connect with people, but there is no boundary in truth. You see? So bottom line, we are living in a time where somebody wants and needs power. Otherwise, you know, and division, by the way, is the worst thing in spirituality, because when we are divided, right, we can be controlled. It's a very simple equation.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask you, so it's almost like I'm trying to wrap my head around the way that you were saying, like the symbolism, and everybody saw it and what it means to each person. It's almost like a collective thought form was created.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. It's like watching a movie. I remember if you look on YouTube, there is a quite interesting documentary, because I experienced my sister watching The Exorcist. My sister's significantly older than me, so she was able to go and see it. And she came back a wreck. And I must have been 5 or 6, and I didn't know what was happening to her. I don't really think she recovered. Then I watched a documentary about people who went to see it. Of course, it was a huge hit, a huge draw, but people freaked out. People freaked out because it was so real. Real. And it is the power of suggestion. You see? So when we watch things where spirituality, the occult, symbolism is misconstructed and used for the purpose of telling a story. But if it's told in a way that is suggestive, it's going to be taken serious. You see? So suddenly, right, now we have the devil. Okay? I remember Linda Blair saying, I couldn't even get a job anymore because everybody crossed the street when they saw me as a normal person. And I thought, guys, it was just a movie. We just made a movie. And it was like, oh, that's the devil girl. You understand the power of suggestion? What is wrong with her to play that? She looked possessed. You see, the power of emotion, guys. That is what I'm always saying. You have to control the power that is in your emotion, because the universe will connect and match your emotion every minute, every second to create your reality. So whatever you put in your emotion, that's what's going to come out. And the imagery was very strong. No one has ever seen anything like it, right? Now, of course, we can watch the most gory things and say, oh, it's just, it's just orange juice or something, we can talk. But I can imagine when you have the first impact of something and say, holy cow, it's the power of suggestion. So symbolism can be taken out of context, right? And completely be misconstrued. And that's exactly what you say, Lucia. When enough people come together and say, right, it's this, right? They all agree, then the symbol becomes that. Then it becomes that. That is also the foundation of all cults. In their doctrines, the Jehovah's Witness, right? According to their doctrines, the world should have ended many times. Many, many times, but only a certain amount of people will survive. So, of course, I ask people when they belong to that religion, what number do you have? And they say, I don't have a number. I said, why do you belong to a religion that doesn't give you a number? Because if you don't have a number, according to your doctrine, you're not going to survive this. So what's the point of following the whole idea? Then they get upset with me. But you see, it's the logic question. Why should I be part of an ideology that says only the worthy will get saved? The Christians do this, the Muslims do this, even the atheists do this,
Also, what defines worthy?
There you go. But that is where we lose power. You see, be a good girl, be a good Catholic, be a good this. And even in covens, even in witchcraft, I've been asked to enter and to have, and I don't want to do it because people get so upset when they don't become high priestess. Why her, not me? Why is he now this and now that? No, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this pettiness that has entered Wicca, basically. And all these elements are just distraction from the core point, which is to transcend yourself. That's why we're here. We are on this planet to learn and understand that energy can be manipulated, it can be formed, because it does it every day anyway, depending on our emotions. It does it anyway, you see. But if we do it uncontrolled, and we're just going through emotions up and down and say, my life is a mess, look at your emotional body, that's your physical body. I mean, it's a barometer that tells you now it's too hot and now it's too cold. When we control it, when we are in charge of it, when we discipline our emotions, guess what's going to happen? Exactly the same mechanism, but now you're in charge. You see? That's why I always say, don't let other people's opinion about you be more important than how you feel. Because the moment you believe that, it's in your head. And the earlier we hear it, as children, you're dumb, you're fat, you're stupid, you'll never get there, and so on and so on. Well, we're dragging that along in our lives, until we do the inner work. And the inner work is very, very, very simple. The question is always, and that's what the people who listen to us now, I would love for them to sit down for a second and say, let me see, what is it that I agree with? Because my life, in all its aspects, is nothing but a manifestation of this emotional agreement. You see, and I have a homework for my people, and I would love to give it to you guys, is for a whole year to try to avoid the word but. Yeah, because but represents a contradiction to what you just said. Yes, I know it's right, but, right? So I don't listen to people, I don't talk to most people anymore because they're using this but very often. It's also so integrated in our conversation. So my advice is to change the word but or exchange it for the word and. Finish the thought, finish the statement, don't contradict it. I know where you're coming from, but I don't agree. Well, then you don't know where I'm coming from. You see, with the word and, you say, I understand where you're coming from. And from my perspective, this is what it feels like. It doesn't contradict the statement that you build up and then you but it. You see, I don't trust anybody.
I never thought about that word, actually.
Absolutely. It is a mental contradiction. I know I should do it, but my life, my mother, my children, my job, my this. But, well, that means you were not in your alignment. That's all it means, you see. And all I'm asking people is when they make statements, please complete the sentence. I have people around me who are not very gay friendly, right? But I'm great. I don't like these homos, but you're wonderful. You see what I mean?
Yeah, that's like,
Which one is it now?
Yeah.
What is it? A complete agreement would be, I have a real issue with gay people, and meeting you really helps me to also shift my perspective because, I kind of like you. Despite the first statement, I have an issue with it. That's my experience, which we have to value, right? And meeting you really helps me to change a perspective that there actually can be nice or normal or don't get in my pants. That's what most men are afraid, you see. Straight men is when they meet gay men is, look, dude, as long as you don't touch me. And I have to remind them, gay men specifically, the standards by which we operate, you will never reach. So trust me, our standards are almost otherworldly high. Straight men can never reach this. Trust me.
They can also just stop you, though.
Exactly.
I mean, this happens in the world with men and women all the time. You just stop the person.
Exactly. You see, and the thing is, therefore, when I speak about US at the moment, and from a European point, living 20 years in the US, how I approach and what I see is when you see Texas, when you see certain states where abortion is now, you know what I mean? It's to protect life. It's to protect this. It is misogynistic. It is an expression of I am against women. That's all it is. You can explain it to me that, maybe we want to give a fetus a choice or an option, or where does, it's a philosophical question sometimes. Ultimately, every restriction, especially women, right? Especially women, is misogyny. Nothing else. Nothing else. You see, and restriction should have no place in spiritual development. Because when I agree with an ideology, I can't go and wear something across and protect myself from the side effects of this ideology. You see?
That's interesting you say that, because I don't know, we're not in the States, of course, and I know these mandates and stuff that we're talking about, at like you're just talking about power and everything. Like, how does that play into the spirituality right now, with people being forced one way or the other, or there's no choice, right? Well, we always have a choice, but
we always have a choice.
Yeah.
Again, I want to go back to the idea of agreement, right? To the concept of agreement. It is simply that it's not about pro or con. It is about, is the suggestion healthy for everybody? Let's change the tax reform. Yeah, but it should benefit everybody. Let's change the effect of, the church should be taxed. Then we all would have no global problems for the next 5,000 years, I guess. Just you know what I mean? There's a tax exemption on church. When did this happen? Meanwhile, they're having yachts and Rolls Royces, and I'm like, how did that come to? You see what I mean? That's the idea. That's where I'm again. It all goes back to, what is my agreement? Conscious agreement and unconscious agreement. Well, that's how life works. You see. So we have an agreement here, which can run, by the way, parallel to the Akashic contract. Because in the you know this best, guys. You're working with, that's your bread and butter, bread and butter, basically. Akasha says, yes, you have a contract, but also the contract is made from lateral movement. You can take it in any direction you want if you understand the concept of agreement. You see, we agree to the contract, not to the frame, because the framework is lateral movement. So all I say is, sometimes, it's the best thing is just, I don't want to hear, Foster comes up, did you see what happened? I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear it, because I know myself, I'm going to get upset. I don't want to hear it. I don't need to get in, because from a spiritual point, I have to permit somebody's opinion, even if I don't like it. You see, even if I don't like it. All I'm asking is, what is the benefit of this belief? Not only for an individual or a selected group, but for everybody. How do we all benefit from it? You see. And that is what happened over thousands of years, because you mentioned symbolism, how the symbolic form of the feminine very often has been taken out of context, demonized, and then made room to the repression of the feminine. You see, and now we had this wonderful Me Too movement where, right, now people come and say, oh, me too, me too, me too. And men, not many, but men say, me too. But you're not supposed to say it as a man, you see. But it happened. Me too. I could write my Me Too story as well, But if I use the word but as a contradiction, you see, I have my own Me Too experience, and it helped me to transcend to the person I am. You see, by not pounding against it, I agree that within the karmic frame, within the Akashic frame, the lateral movement says either you become a rapist, you become a bully, you become psycho, you become dement, or you choose, right? You agree with, well, something better has to come out of this. There must be something else, you see. And we are not all made to be, we're not all made to survive. And that's completely fine. It doesn't negate, but in order to help somebody with these kind of backgrounds, right? You can tell them the most amazing possibilities of change that are within the contractual frame. If they're not in agreement, no. Because free will, right? Lorena, can't force people. Can't force people. See?
No.
All I'm asking people at this point is when they try to get my agreement, is that, where's the evidence for your statement? I need papers, I need documents, I need, you know what I mean? Because it's become really very easy to make statements that have consequences. People get fired now these days. People get canceled. People get scrutinized, you know? We have all kinds of experience of this. Just this morning, we watched a little bit the news about Cosby, you know, who is a rapist. Guess what? He's now playing golf somewhere. And, you know, you explain this to me. You explain this to me.
Yeah, that's insane.
I can tell you it's not insane. It's very logic. If you look at it from what's the source of this kind of decision, it's misogyny. Nothing else. It is misogyny. Kyle Rittenhouse, who goes over a state, gets a gun, kills 4 people and says, I defended myself, and has a judge who basically, I mean, all they needed to do is basically just sleep together. You know what I mean? I mean, they felt like buddies. Walks away free.
Yeah, we didn't, since we're not in the States, we didn't really follow that. So I don't know.
I mean, there is a lot of craziness that happens here, you know, not crazy.
Isn't Pluto in the state, the US this year? Pluto's there, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. See, and it's, again, when you look at constellations at the moment, you know, that's why in a little talk, I said, we are now in a hangover period. Everybody got drunk for 2 years on craziness, basically. And now it's the morning after and say, what the hell happened? And it's like, what is this movie with Bradley Cooper where they go to Las Vegas and get drunk?
The Hangover.
The Hangover. It's exactly this for me. And now did I say, oh my God, did I tweet? Oh, Jesus.
But do you think you're talking about the States, or do you think it's worldwide?
Oh, it's everywhere. It's everywhere, especially in Europe. Especially in Europe. You see, I have friends of color here. And they say, they say very rightly, you can't imagine what we're going through, how much we were bullied. I said, you know, maybe not race-wise. It's not against black or white. But when I was in Europe and I was a child, I was bullied nonstop because I was not German. You know, I was the wrong white. Yeah, I heard it all my life. You know, go back to your country. Exactly the same thing. Go back to your country. Go back where you come from. You know, there's many, many terms which I don't need to repeat here. But that's
Lorena and I had that as well in the States.
I'm telling you, it's
South America.
Absolutely. You see, absolutely. And I went through it. I mean, I'm pale, duh, and I have blue eyes, and still, you know, people said, you don't look German enough. Therefore, go back where you came from. Meanwhile, I'm speaking better German than most Germans, you know? But again, I come here, and the last 4 years, I have to say, especially with Trump, who triggers a mindset that says, look, I'm a racist. I love being a racist. I say it repeatedly. You can't sugarcoat this anymore. You can't spin it. And it gave people here in this country afraid of change, afraid of evolution. That's what just happened. But if he can do it, we can do it. You see? And when you run around and say, go get them, that's what's wrong. That is what's wrong. Share your opinion, of course, but not go get them, burn them down, and storm the Capitol, because that's called terrorism, for which you go to jail. You see? Again, we're back to the agreement. We're back to the agreements. And how do people protect themselves? How do people protect themselves? They say, I'm white, I'm not going to jail. I'm white and blonde, and I have a great job. I'm not going to jail. Of course they're going to jail. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But we are now in the hangover period. Now people will look back and say, what the hell was that? What happened to me? You see, the plutonic element really, and also it has a lot to do with Persephone. See, Persephone, who is this mythologic being that is being kidnapped and dragged and raped into the underworld, right? And this is where education and culture is important. If we look at the word Persephone, she is the daughter of Perseus. Perseus means in Greek destroyer. So she is the female destroyer. That is not some, Persephone is not some, bimbo that gets raped and doesn't know what's happening to her. She is a destroyer. She goes into the underworld. She controls the underworld at some point. She says, well, I'm meant to be here. And what she does is everything that is stuck and not processed she brings up. And that's exactly what happened. You see, that's exactly what happened. We have two fractions at the moment from consciousness, even among the spiritual people. Willing to go into a shifting of consciousness that's necessary also to confront your own conviction, or justifying everything they've done with blunt racism, blunt mind control, money control. It's power. It's power. It's really power. I know a lot of people in the media who have these very extreme anti-racing, anti-that they don't even believe it. They don't believe it. They know if I'm going to say that, I'm going to get the masses. I'm going to get energy. You see? And that's what I think in one of our talks, we talked about the idea of being harvested. That's how you lose energy, you see? But it can't go forever. Pluto, Persephone, at the moment, they're all meeting and bring up. So there's going to be a big sobering in the next, I hope, 2 years now. And, it's like giving birth to something new. Birth is never an easy thing. It doesn't matter how much epidural you get. You're going to feel that something's coming out down there. You know what I mean? You're going to feel it. And you have the aftercare. That's exactly where we are. So I'm always terribly hopeful and very optimistic that this is all meaningful. It makes complete sense from an Akashic point. Because you see, we have individual Akasha and we have collective Akasha. And why are we on this planet in the first place? To help the planet ascend. And that works only if the individual ascension happens. Therefore, the question is, can you be wrong? And now I'm going to say something controversial. I think no one is wrong on this planet, no matter how abstruse their view is, because I learned and I understood that we're not waking up every day in the same dimensional reality. We just don't. We go through very subtle shifts of experience. And that means maybe in this dimensional reality, flat Earth is ridiculous. But maybe in another dimensional reality, it's not. Maybe in this dimensional reality, the light switch always used to be on the right side. And suddenly you wake up and say, was the light switch always on the left side? You see, these shifts, right? We are going conscious and subconscious every day through different dimensional doorways and realities.
That reminds me of like discussions you'll have with, like, for example, your partner, and you'll be like, yeah, because you said this. I never said that. Dude, you literally said it. Like, I remember it.
Yes. Right.
And to them, they didn't say it. To you, they totally and completely said it. That's
exactly what it is. I had a discussion with friends about a situation, very intense. And they said, really? I said, what am I, Francis Farmer? I don't remember what I said. I mean, I was there and described the situation. And I thought, either they're crazy or it's psychology say in denial. But very often very often, let me give an extreme example. Because I know very well what that means. When a child is raped, abused, a child, it's correct when people say, and it happens, is that the spirit detaches for that period and then returns when it's over. But when the spirit returns to the physical part, it doesn't arrive in the same dimensional reality. So there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of experience. We call it subconscious. But it's not necessarily subconscious. It is that it happened in a different dimensional time frame, so to speak. How often did you have it? The experience you go from I'm in the kitchen. I say, I want my pen is in my office. Literally, I just walked down the hallway and I forgot why I'm in my room. What is it that I wanted, right? And we say Alzheimer, dementia. It's starting, and it's not. It's not. It is between the kitchen and my office. I walk through a dimensional shift where the pen is not important anymore. You understand? Therefore, a lot of experiences, and I want to be careful I hope I can describe it correctly. Even when we hear ideas, especially with all the COVID and all the governmental stuff and so on, for many decades, by the way, from the UFOs and Area 51 and so on, I'm very careful to make it all, to say it's all made up or, crazy or nutty. Because the question is, through how many dimensional realities has a person to go in order to believe that? I think we have now 4 million people on this planet who believe in flat Earth. Are they all crazy? Are they all delusional? Or are they all also coming from Akashic principles of dimensional reality where there are worlds that look flat? Maybe not in our galaxy, right? Or in our universe, but maybe some other universes, the principles are the Earth is flat. Because if the Earth would be flat, I guarantee you we would know, because Disneyland would have a flat Earth edge park where you could, go over the edge and come back. I mean, guaranteed.
Yeah, they would milk it, definitely.
I would have a slide there, dive into the endless universe or something, or push the dead all over the edge. Let them float out there.
Oh my gosh.
I don't need to bury them, you know what I mean? But you see, again, this is where we are at this point.
But so let's say that flat Earth person, you're saying it came from that dimensional where maybe it is really happening, but it's a thing. And I'm meeting up with that person. Am I meeting up with someone that's supposedly in a different dimension, or we just met up?
You're meeting somebody who is in a different dimension.
But we're both vibrating in the same density.
I met this wonderful man. We were like two peas in a pot. We had total agreement. We married. We loved. Suddenly, 20 years later, I don't even know who the hell that is. Right? Because our spirit moves through different dimensional realities according to our Akashic contrast. You see, otherwise there would be no movement, right? Suddenly people wake up and say to their 30-year marriage, I'm a transsexual, I want to be a woman. When did this happen? You see? Or I woke up one day and I realized I decided I'm gay. You can't decide you're gay or straight, right? That's why people say, well, it's a choice. Well, then when did you make the choice to be straight? If you think that sexuality... Of course,
yeah. I mean, that's so, yeah.
It's crazy. So, but in the dimensional shift of time and experience, maybe in some point sexuality is a choice. And that is the cell memory. See, we are much, much more complex external hardwares, I have to say, who can really download a lot more things than we know. But again, I always make sure that when I read somebody, that I understand in what dimensional reality they are at this point. Because when I have people, I lived in LA for 20 years, they're 45. Now they think they need to be a great actress, win an Oscar, have a man, and have a baby. Not in this dimensional reality, honey. It's not happening. It's just not happening. Or a 65-year-old with tens of surgeries, which is all great for me. I'm not against it. I'm actually very much for it. Says, I still look great. I still look young and fresh, and I look like 30. Not in this dimensional reality, honey. Just not. You see what I mean? But that is why, let me just say that, that's why we have something so ridiculous like plastic surgery, because we pretend, right? We pretend, or we restructure a face and a form according to a dimensional belief. I'm still looking good. I'm still young. I still have a great body. So we want sometimes to adjust our current state of mind with our dimensional experience. You see, that's why so many people feel drawn to Akashic readings, to magic, to the occult, because it's like Harry Potter, right? Flop, flop, flop. And here's the man, here's the money, and here's a happy life. Not in this dimensional reality. That here we need a little bit more, you see. That's the idea. So, to close the circle to what we started with, Trevor Scott, right? The question is, were these people at the beginning of the show in the same dimensional reality like after the show? Because, you see what I mean?
I didn't think about that.
Oh, absolutely. Music, sound, energy, and then the collective shifts energy very fast. World wars is nothing else. Seeing thousands and millions of Germans cheering to Hitler is nothing else. It's a complex construction of energy that shifts a dimension. And what was the theme of the Nazis? Let's create the next, the Third Reich, the 1,000 years of the Third Reich. You see, knowing or not, they incorporated so many occult elements, the correct ones, but they contradicted the subject. They contradicted the meaning. That means the reality of dimension of a symbol and of a state of mind, if it collides, it self-destructs. And that's what happened.
They used but.
Exactly, exactly. Isn't it interesting? It's not like this is the only way, but I'm sometimes I have conversations with my guidance. They say, just shift it a little bit. I'm like, God, that little shift in our terminology can really complete an experience. Because it's not about if I agree with you or not, or, well, let me tell you, you are wrong. Not at all. But if it's contradicted 5 times, yes, I try, but I'm also hungry, but I need to diet. But otherwise my blood sugar goes down. But it would be also important. Well, what is it now? What is it? Are you hungry or not? You see, that is the idea. We're back to what we agree with, and there is conscious agreement and subconscious agreement. That's why I'm always saying, be careful where you're going with collectives, because you're agreeing with it. Like it or not, you're agreeing. And when you go home and you completed the agreement, you're taking the completion back home, and it becomes part of your experience.
So can I jump dimensions past the sober part of this that you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, not that I'm so special or great, but I'm very trained in these jumps, and that's exactly what I do.
Is that a quantum leap?
It's a form to understand it, yes. In quantum physics, that's what it's a leap beyond a conditioned experience. And people do it. They get abused and turn out great. They leap over their own conflict. They leap over their darkness. Or they say, I got abused, now I'm going to abuse, because that's the logic concept of it, which is psychologically also proven, right? That people who do mass killing have some kind of experience by themselves, of course, you see. But again, that's the stage where I am at the moment, and work on systems and concepts of quantum leaps. And the quantum leap is to understand that the mechanism of the recipe is attention, symbolism, concept, belief system. And if I agree with it, do I want the result of this agreement as part of my experience? Yeah. And I asked my guide, not even asked, but we had discussions about it. Sometimes he talks to me, when it says, Kristos needs help to understand even that, because it's so complex. And he said, when you look at life and death and the belief system of hell and heaven, and if you're good, you go, and if you're not, you go. He says that concept, of course, doesn't exist. Because in one of the books that never made it into the Bible, by the way, an apostle says, listen, at the end, everybody goes to heaven, but don't tell them. Let it be a surprise, right? And I thought, well, if there's no hell in that sense, and we all go to, and I said, does Hitler go to the light? He says, absolutely. Everybody goes to the light. And, not but, and must go through a filtering process. That means somebody like Hitler, right, with all the great concepts that he had, spiritual, veganism, meditation, visionary, he had it all, basically. Where did it go bad? Somewhere. Doesn't matter. He kills himself, of course. All cowards do this. And enters the dimensional realm of the other side. Doesn't go directly to the light. He has to go through various filters. That it's almost like, oh my God, can I say this? It's going to sound funny. It's almost like a dry cleaner. And you say, there's still the stain. I can't get this stain out. One more time, we go through the process of the filtering. You understand? A soul, a spirit, can enter the light easy when there's no filtering process necessary. We don't talk about stupid mistakes or, oh God, I cheated on my wife, and no one cares about that stuff. But when we do mass killing, and how can I eradicate the planet, and how can I kill it, you need some filtering process. So they're going basically through a dry cleaning process, and then they are in this sobering moment and say, what the F did I do? So you see what I mean? That these layers, however they come together, can become so possessed. It's like when somebody is possessed, they go through it can't be that I did this. What was in my head? What? So the filtering process, you see what I mean, is a form of shifting the dimensional understanding. So when we do a little bit of, mistakes, and, I stole a little bit of bread and candy once, and I lied a couple of times. Oh, I lied a lot, and I used my credit card to buy. No one gives a crap about that stuff. You see, when it comes to hurting people, when it comes to manipulating people, when it comes to people like, these Kool-Aid guy, right, who convinced 100 people to kill themselves. There is a good example of that, you see, where an ideology can become so like a soundtrack, that you are being convinced that this is the right thing. So they all basically went to the light because they didn't know what happened. But Jim Jones is still in some dry cleaning process to get these stains out of his system. See? Because they always say, I did nothing wrong. You see? I did nothing wrong. Charles Manson, I did nothing wrong. Hitler, I did nothing wrong. And that is what evil is. Evil is never feels responsible for what it does. You see? And so, you see, this example, I hope it helps you to understand that we are going through these dimensional shifts, especially when you say, for example, in my or when you give a reading, say in your Akashic record, it says that you are too dumb to understand something, so you will need a full head-on collision against the wall, break your neck, be paraplegic to get the message. And there are 4 different ways how you can avoid this. Would you like that? Not but, and, right? Because that's lateral movement of Akasha. We always get 4 different ways. So the person says, no, I'll take one of the ways, please. Which one can I? Well, there's this and this. So when they incorporate this and they learn and grow, would they still need the first dimensional experience of head flown in? Of course not. They don't need the accident. You see? But they need to get something because they put the marker at that point in their life. So they will have a fender bender, somebody will scratch the door, the coffee spills in the car. You know, that's how far it goes. But something has to happen to the car, you see, or to the item by which I, said I need a full head-on collision if I don't get it in my life, if I don't understand it, right? That is the idea. That is how we transcend in a very extreme way. You see what I mean? So we're all going through dry cleaning processes every night to remove stains, to remove scars, to remove impurities on the fabric, so to speak. Hopefully, right? But that's what Akasha is. Akasha is, of course, a contract, an agreement in its essence, but it offers always 4 different ways to use the lateral movement to direct yourself in your power in any shape you want. And that's what aliens have, the advanced ones, have ahead of us. They transcended, they ascended their planet and their consciousness because they understood, guys, we can manipulate energy.
I want to jump to the dimension where my neighbor can be from another planet. Like howdy neighbor, and it's like, I don't know, someone from Sirius or something.
Look, is it possible? Of course it's possible if we look at it from the dimensional element. Why do you think so many people had real experiences of alien abductions? But there's no evidence. A screw here or there, or some hair or some tissue. But in the end, there is no real evidence. But look how many thousands of people have this experience. Are they all crazy? Are they all bored out of their mind and say, oh, today I'm abducted? Of course not. These people have something in common. They have an experience of different dimensions of planets which can reoccur depending on a trigger point. Something triggers it, you know what I mean? Like a switch. And they're going in that moment through a real abduction. It doesn't mean it's in this dimensional reality and time frame. You see? I always have to disappoint alien enthusiasts and say, are the aliens here? Well, yes and no, because people think they're flying here. I said, there is no way. There is no advanced civilization which can bridge the endless space between planets and galaxies. There is no way. There is no, unless they're really patient and say, let's fly 50 billion years. By the time they arrive, the universe is gone. I mean, So how do they show up here?
The time manipulation thing.
Exactly. They change time. They manipulate time. You see, they exist, and so they come in a time reality, and that is also the light speed, right? How do the UFOs always disappear? Right? Suddenly they're gone. They never just dissipate like fog. Oh, there it goes. They always zoom in, zoom out. So the Egyptians, light, the speed of light and the speed of sound. The moment you connect them, you create anti-gravity. You manipulate the very fabric of what we call akasha, or which in science we call dark matter. That's all it is, you see. They figured out how to manipulate this energy. So they say, hey, let's go visit these people, let's go, all that stuff. We're sitting here talking philosophically about it, possibly. In Hermetics, it's very practical. That's the goal, actually. And then comes religion, who says, well, you have to be worth it. You see? And that is the biggest loss of energy when somebody says, you have to be worth it. You have to be born with it. You have to have something special. And we are all more than willing to run after them like sheep and idolize them. Every teacher, every guru is just, who's worked his name and his soul, is just an example of it's doable. We have so many ascended masters. And what means mastering and ascending? It means that I have understood that energy, I always say, if people understand that magic is energy, we all would be basically, Harry Potters. But some don't believe in energy. Whether you start explaining to them, they say, that's life. That's life. Hopefully, God will have mercy with me and throw me a bone occasionally after all these crumbs. And there's the other fraction, right? Energy, let's change, let's do, let's go, let's manage. And that's where you guys are, for example. That's what you work with. If you go to the Akashic, that's exactly what it is. Nothing is set in stone. That wouldn't make sense in this dimension, you see. But we have many dimensional opportunities to experience something. And the key to these doors is our emotions. The moment we shift our emotional reality, we literally activate the key or the code to that door. So the next question would be, how do I get to the door? The emotion is the key. You have to know how it should feel. What is the emotional reality you want to experience? And that opens the dimensional door. Whoop, you're through. And then we say, well, Lucia was lucky. She was just lucky, right place, right time. No.
So what about if you're confronted with something and it's something you have to head towards, or it's something that's on your most convenient path, or what you're supposed to go there, that. Mm-hmm. But you have emotions that pull you towards there, but you have emotions also pull you back, because that's common. You see what I'm losing, but what am I gaining? So your advice in that case would be control the emotions so that you're concentrating on the good ones that bring you towards that path.
Right. Because the experience that you have that there is a opposition is not fake, it's real, it's there. But by you including it, it has to, it's almost like having a really bizarre ingredient in a cake, and you can't put time in a lemon cake. Make it up. Of course you can, but why not? Well, it tastes weird. But if you try to incorporate something that just doesn't harmonize, guess what's going to your system is? You will eat it and say, it tastes weird. You see? So don't add it. Very simple. Don't add it. It's cheesecake. Just eat the dead cheesecake. Don't experiment with something. An omelette is an omelette, 3 eggs, put some salt and pepper and finish. What does it need suddenly? Avocados and tomatoes and onions and bacon and a horse and a cow, I don't know what else, It's not necessary. So it is important to dissect the emotion. Dissect means, wait a minute, how do I feel about this? Because I can visualize anything I want, but how do I feel about it? And when you identify the feeling, then see how much contradiction is in that feeling. Extract it and say, it's not necessary because I want the path as easy as possible. And that's when my guide said very often, if something turns out difficult, it's probably wrong. The more complicated a life path, the more wrong it is in that sense. Life experience should never be difficult. That's what we do as souls. As a soul, we would never deal with stuff like here. We always would say, what feels good, and that's when I say, oh, look, there is this guy, this guy is so unlikable, then I don't need to hang out with him. The soul doesn't agree with something that doesn't make sense. That's why when I talk to my guide and people say, in channelings, when they say, can you explain to us evil or darkness or the devil, and say, no. It's just such a nice talk. Let's not spoil it with an ingredient that doesn't make sense. You see, is there enough to talk about it? Of course, but why would I include it in a spiritual, you know what I mean? What would be the benefit of you knowing how evil functions? And to boil it down, there are no evil spirits. There's only evil intentions of people who change the spirit according to it. So somebody looks at Lucifer and says, Satan. Another one looks at Lucifer and says, the light bringer, because that's what his name means. Yeah. I meditate on Lucifer just because I was curious. And this handsome gentleman shows up in Hawaii shirts and flip-flops. And I'm like, I'm waiting for Lucifer. He's like, that's me. I'm like, where's your pitchfork, your horn, and, the hole in the ground? He's like, oh, God. So it's important to let me say the word, because I like the word, construct and define your own belief system. That is the best, My guide always says, be your own church. Be your own Bible. Don't follow anything. Jesus says it very clearly, The only 2 times he was in the church was when he was a child and told everybody they're idiots. And then the second time he beats the crap out of them when he sees that they are bazaring, honking off stuff in the church. That's the only time he goes to church. But Christians believe he's white, blue-eyed, and wanted the church, you know what I mean? But now there is a society, a generation, which is very, very good in extracting, in reading, in translating correctly, and say, wait a minute, what's going on here? And something that I said for many, many years, and people really, I had my fair share of question marks of people, who liked me, but also thought that I'm nuts. And I said, what you call God, is the devil. How can you say that? I said, just look at the history. You have a sacred book about it. Look how often God kills people. Say something against him. Kill, murder, floods, destruction. He's ruthless. What kind of a God is that? But usually people who deny that never read the Bible. So I read 20 versions of it. You see, I love it. I love it when people argue and they don't know which passage I'm describing. I love it.
But also the image is masculine. Why does it have to be masculine?
There you go. You see, there you go. There are so many passages which I extracted over the last decade. And metaphysically, hermetically, you have to read it in a symbolic form, And one of the most important parts where we are right now is I call it the Nostradamus crossroad, where Nostradamus says at some point you go there and you can decide in what direction you want to go. And this is for me the story of Babel, where Yahweh says to whoever is with him, look at them, how they're getting along, they're all united. And if we let them stay connected and united, they're going to make us obsolete. See, the tower is not a real tower. It is a symbol of unity. If we come together, we can go and rise and climb as high. So what does he say? It's there written, let's go down and confuse them so that they don't understand each other. Because if they don't understand each other, they're not going to question my authority. That is God, you see? And of course, women have ended up at the bottom of the food chain in religion. You see? And so what is religion for? It is misogyny. Nothing else. Nothing else. It was only meant to repress one part of humanity.
But isn't it also to disempower in a way people in general? Because it's like, you have to come to this church to pray. You have to tell me all your sins. If not, you're just going to go to hell or something.
Right. You see, religion, interesting enough, always functions especially through fear. Always through fear. And whenever fear is present, you're losing energy. There you go. You see, there you go. Back to the conspiracy theorists, back to vaccines, people who 3 years ago didn't even know we're up and down and suddenly are experts, know more than scientists, don't even understand how it's all working. And where did we end in? Look at the craziness that's happening out there. People are dying. People are dying. It's a real illness. It's a real, there's a reality to it, a real dimension to it, right? Where people say, take it serious. But look how many misconstrue the facts and say, oh, no, it's nothing. It's a flu.
Is it possible that they're in another dimension? Like we were talking about before.
There you go. You see? There you go. I cannot in my state of mind right now just say they're all just liars and conspirators and crazy. It depends in what dimensional reality are they experiencing this right now. You see what I mean? It's an interesting thought pattern. Because if I come and say they're all wrong and crazy and we are right because no. You see, we're back to the beginning. So I'm trying to see it and to understand how these dimensional realities, time frames of realities also, change perception to some degree. What we all share, by the way, anti-vax and pro-vax, is a real fear. That's what we share. We all share a fear, a fear to be controlled, to be manipulated, to die, to do the wrong decision. It's a lot about fears, and that's what we all have to go through. It's okay. We will eventually, But it's too easy to diminish somebody's experience just because it doesn't sound logic, So from an Akashic point, you understand? From an Akashic point, I have to look at the complexity of their state of dimension. That is the idea. And look, my parents grew up not even knowing what an atom was, and I grew up knowing that you can split an atom. We're talking about 50 years. You know what I mean? Very simple. That means in their dimensional reality, what is an atom? Right? In my dimensional reality, you can split the damn thing and split that core too. Isn't it amazing? There you have evidence of dimensional shifts, so to speak. That's why when our parents, especially parents of my age, get old, they say, it used to be all so much better. It used to be all so much better, right? And I say, Mom, what was better? You had no food. It was war. You had to immigrate to different countries. What was better? Oh, it was all better. In what reality was it better? But you see, compared to where she is, she returns to her, reality. And that's what Alzheimer is. That's what dementia is. That's what she's going through. It's not only a physical illness where the brain deteriorates or the body. It is also, what do they say? Same stories. She repeats the same story. Oh, did I tell you that? Oh, did I tell you that? Yeah, did I tell you that? And it's literally the same monologue, you see? So, yes, physically she has dementia, and yes, there is an issue, but also she is now in one time frame reality, and that is what she's repeating. That's what she's repeating, because some people realize, oh my God, I'm getting to the mortality part of my life. Wow, it's getting there. I can't believe that. I can't believe I'm 80. Can't believe I'm 90. Right? Betty White, 100. Right? Amazing, but conscious, very aware. In other words, the fear of death and the punishment that will await us, if we believe that, creates a dimensional loop, if you want, that we call dementia or Alzheimer. And basically, oh, I'm still 20. I'm your son. Oh, you are? I don't remember that. That was your husband for 50 years. Really? Don't know who that is. You see what I mean? It doesn't affect me because I haven't even started living yet. So the notion of everything is the fear of death, or maybe rather the fear of what comes afterward. You see? And that is what dementia is. That's what Alzheimer is. I understood it very well.
I think for me, if I try to analyze myself, which I've done quite a few times, for me,
yes, really.
I question myself. I think for me, fear is I'm scared that I'm going to miss out on life experiences. Like I'm always looking at the time and going, like we're all working and I'm not doing anything. Like I have to wait for people to get out of work. Like if I don't work, I have to wait for everybody to get out of work so we can live life together. Or I have to wait 5 years to be able to go have that house over there, or live in that town over there. Right. That's my biggest fear, that things pass by and
we say in English, we have a term in English, how bad do you want it? And that is actually quite an interesting term, or an interesting sentence, because when I want something, really I want something, listen, I make it happen. I make it happen. It's just that I really, really want that. So, do you have to wait 5 years to get something done? No. You have to stay long enough in a focused emotional alignment with what you want. That's all it is. We're jumping in and out of our emotions. Oh, that would be great. That would be great. But the fact is, I'm fat. That would be wonderful. The fact is, I'm sick. The fact is, we're going back. You see, back exactly. Instead of, wow, I'm getting closer and closer. I can feel it already. I can sense, because I have a very clear emotional reality of how it feels. And I can sense that it's coming closer and closer. I can taste it. It's so real. I can almost cut the air with it. And that's what happens, you see? Therefore, don't go into the but form. Don't contradict the emotion, but stay long enough in it. Stay long enough in it. That's why I said to my groups and to my students this year, one of the homeworks that I'm giving them, or the main is, choose one reality you want to experience, identify the emotion, how it should feel, or how it will feel when it's there, and then do every day focus work on that emotion. It has to be visited every single day for a year. That focus speeds up time. you can shift out of a time frame when you counteract time with focus. Yeah, that's the idea. So time is again a construction, but focus is is the glue that keeps it together. So if you focus on the substance that keeps it together, it transmutes everything that connects, which is time and space. That's what we call synchronicity. It's a real mechanism. It's a mechanical process, actually. It sounds very dry when I say it, but that's how it works. I'm interested very much in the mechanics of energy, and that's how it goes. So it's a counterbalance: time, frustration, space. It's over there. How do I get there? How do I do it? How do I do it? I hear this all the time. How do I get there? What do you want? First comes the what, then comes the how.
That's what I was going to ask you. What about if it's someone that says, I'm not happy where I am, but I don't know what I want?
I would transform this and say, I agree at the moment that I have reached the best possible emotion where I am, and I invite and embrace now every possibility to experience an evolution of this experience where I am. That's why in magic, very often people say, I want a great man or something better. I want a beautiful car or better. I want these shoes or better. And that is an idea where we say, well, my lowest standard is possibility, and then I'll give it to the universe. So, but I don't start with, that job is such a shit job. I don't even know what I'm doing here. They're all idiots anyway. And the government manipulates me and they never get money. And I know, but I want to get better. No, you have to agree with the choices you made. I can't believe I married that loser. Hopefully I meet a nicer man. It doesn't work. You have to honor the agreement that you made. I met this guy, I met this person, I agreed to marry, to have children, to go into this. And it comes now to a completion of our emotions. I feel that I have reached a place where I don't want to blame him for my unhappiness or her. Therefore, I choose to now responsibility for my well-being and for my happiness, and liberate him or her from all expectation that is ridiculous, because no one can make me happy. That's my job. And with this consciousness, I move forward and allow and permit feelings and experiences of magnificent vision. And off you go, you see. So the trick is to stay in alignment with what you've done. The moment you say, why did I even do that? I was so unhappy. I was so unhappy. I was so unhappy. Okay, we got it. We got it. We're so unhappy. Now let it go and move on. You see, when I studied as a child, one of the first things is I was not allowed to talk about what went wrong that day. No one cares. My mother had a sentence for this. Laugh and the world will laugh with you, cry and you will weep alone.
Oh, that's like, I love complaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I shouldn't do it, but I just love it.
Yeah. Look, even let's take the word complain. A complaint is a clarified moment. Something's not working out. That cake didn't work out. That relationship didn't work out. That job is not. But at the same time, to acknowledge and say, well, I agreed with everything. And I want to honor the agreement without dissecting the agreement. I chose it for some reason. Otherwise, maybe in 5 years, you would not get where you are, or in a year, you would not be where you are. In other words, wherever you end up is the result of your previous agreements. The more you reject the agreements, guess what's going to happen along the way? It's like dragging dead bodies with you. You see. That's why I'm sure you guys know this best, how difficult readings can be, right? Because of the possibilities that show up But in the end of the day, I can have somebody with a great chart, for example, or wonderful numbers and a great construct. If they're not in agreement with what they've chosen, it's like dragging them by the hair to a better place. You know that, right?
Oh my God, those readings, they're really hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. And therefore, I try to avoid this crystal ball reading expectation. What will happen? Well, it depends what you do. Nothing will happen. If you do nothing, this is the outcome. But if you do something, you change the outcome. And that is, funny enough, one of the biggest surprises of my career over 30 years now, that I have, been working every year, nonstop, basically for 30 years, is that people said, I didn't know that I have a chance to change things. That was for me like, you're kidding. But you see, that's what has been told. Bless you. There you go. You see what I mean? That's what has been told, right? Be good, be this, follow, obey, be quiet, be a good wife, be a good this, accept what women are, accept what men, and so on and so on. And suddenly, look, now we have women who are very independent, very successful, have their own businesses, make babies without needing a man. They just go to a sperm bank and get him, and say, that's my job. You see what I mean? Now we have gay marriage. We have, I'm surrounded by divorced people, funny enough, and here I am. And they say, well, you're gay. But I said, listen, gay with a 20-year-old marriage, not 5 times divorced, with alimony. You see what I mean? I'm just saying, people try to make me feel bad about one thing. I'm like, how many times have you been divorced? And how many times has your son been in jail? And how long is your husband? I can play the game, I'm gay. I'm terribly petty. I love it, Gays are petty, so get ready for it. But, you understand? I'm a mess. But, in the end of the day, always examine your agreements, because every agreement will follow you into the future, no matter what you've chosen. And I think an extreme person like Hitler, definitely, you can look at how can you have the best ingredients, really transformative ingredients, and go off that bad. Bad, right? Bad. Lots of dry cleaning necessary for that soul, right?
You think he's already reincarnated? Horrible.
No.
No?
People like this or experiences like this, they would need, my guide once said something. He said, you always talk about burning in hell for 1,000 years. And of course that doesn't exist, but it is the idea that because time doesn't exist on the other side, right? It means that sometimes people can go for 10,000 years through their dry cleaning process, which for them would be like 2 days or a year. You see, they have no, and we would say that guy didn't reincarnate in so long for obvious reasons, because the impact on his spirit, on his soul is so, so dark. We would say it needs much more dry cleaning to get him out. But eventually, that's what Thomas says in his gospel. They're all going to the light. There's no other way. You see, we serve the light in the end of the day. I have to remind myself very often of this, because when you have a certain sight or ability of sight, which is, guys, it's like, for me, it's like Netflix. It's just there, right? It's very boring to play. For me, it's very boring to play this game because I got the instructions and the solutions with the board game. But it's like, oh God, what's the point of playing it? Because I know the solutions already. But it's not easy. It's not easy to transcend every day and to even realign. It's, what I mean? So being judgmental, it's, for somebody like me, I'm super careful with it because it's so quick, because you love to complain. I love to judge, but I have to always step back and say, you know what? depending on what dimensional reality, what agreements, what disagreements somebody is. And that's where I help very often. That's what Foster does for 40 plus years. He heals disagreements. So it's curable, it's healable. But sometimes people go back and say, I actually like the disagreement, and so I'm going to repeat it because now I know that I have somebody who can take it out. So they get fat, they get thin. They get fat, they get thin. They get divorced, they get married. You know what I mean? They can't make up their mind. And that is the loop. The goal is to be above that. First of all, no one's wrong. Because everybody, each of us, we are, and the people who listen to us now, are in their own dimensional reality and time frame. That's all. Knowing or not knowing, but that's where they are. So how wrong can they be? Right? How dumb are they? How smart are they? Not at all. You can't even compare it because they are in their individual point of view. The idea is to collectively say, you know what? Let's all tune into one collective reality and share a great feeling and lift it all up. That's the idea. So we can be in our individual reality and at the same time also collect or create rather a deliberate reality with people. That's what we do in yoga studios, in group work. We have all these people, and then we say, okay, now we all focus on this. So everybody in their individual reality creates a substance, a matter, a creational moment of vibration that benefits not only us as a group, but also everybody who goes to that place. You see?
Yeah, that reminds me of like the when we have like our Akashic course and we'll have a group of people and everyone they're doing it for the first time and they're connecting and they're feeling really empowered. Mm-hmm. And then they go back to their life.
Right.
And it's like, right.
And, and that is exactly the idea. It's so much easier to reach a level when you are in a resort. Right? When I go to India for 2 months and they do Ayurveda, oh my God, I look amazing. Yeah. The moment I go to my flight back, there's the crap on my plate because, you know what I mean? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's how can I maintain certain elements to condition the well-being that was the result of my choice for a longer period. And that's what we call health. That's what we call health.
Finding balance, like whatever it was that you were living there with your quote unquote normal life, and being able to find a happy medium that you're happy with, that works, that gives you well-being, right?
That's what it is. That's what it is. See, I learned very, very early, and I've taught it from day one when I became a teacher. You have to discipline your life in some form, in some shape or form. You have to. There's just no way around it. It is like we have a nice word, self-care. It's a form of self-care. Brush your teeth, wash your face, take care of your hair, your nails, wear deodorant, all these elements. That is a part of self-care. Mental hygiene, that's how we call it in Hermetics. Mental hygiene. And the goal is not to say, God, what was I thinking now? Typical for me, negative again. That's not the goal. The goal in Hermetics is to say, I had like 20 thoughts now about, negative. Let me balance it. So it's not about pretending I'm such a high being. It is important to say, I choose deliberately to say, I thought, 5 negative thoughts today, which were really detrimental. Let me balance this with 5 positive. So it's all about equilibrium, not about being a better person, or being a master or anything. It's not about this. It's not about this. Mastery means in complete agreement with every thought, every feeling you have, understanding the benefit of that feeling, because it will manifest, of course, like it or not, but also being in the center. I had to learn it, guys. This is not something that I was born with. But when you ask people about me, they would say, Chris is the most disciplined person you know, and one of the most chill people. How can you not yell at this or scream at this or correct this? You know how long it took me to get to that point of balance, and how hard it is to maintain the balance every day? You know, no, I don't want to get off that train because I know how difficult it will be to get on the train again. So I honor my effort, you see. And if I correct somebody because they're really wrong at this point, because what they say is stupid or dumb or has no value, who am I to change it? You see what I mean? Who am I to change it? And even if I'm right, in quotes, it changes nothing because it has to arrive in the other person. There's no guarantee they will say, you're so right, you see. So my readings are always about the starting point. What is the agreement? And that's how I go. And people say, you just said something that I was feeling, that I thought. They think I'm a mind reader. They said, that's exactly what I thought. But it's not. I'm just looking at the agreement where you are. I thought about this. I see this. I'm doing this already. That's the agreements. See, there's nothing metaphysical about it. There's nothing, about it. It's an agreement. That's what you agreed. And you see, now it makes sense. You're right. I thought about this for quite some time. Well, there you go. That is not the problem. You know this best when you give readings, is to maintain the feeling, is to maintain. And that is the inner work. That's all there is. That's all there is. And if you want, you can spend your money on candles and incense and stones and crystals and fairies and Ouija boards. That's all fine. That's just, stuff. In the end of the day is, are you honoring your agreement? And are you willing to be responsible for the agreement? And not judge it in good or bad. You see, that is the idea. And that is, Lucia, that is the atom bomb of all protections. You see what I mean? That is the mother lode of all protections, because when you are in balance, nothing can manipulate you. Nothing. Nothing. Yeah, that is the goal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. That. Yeah, I like how it all came in a circle together.
Yeah. You see.
Very cool.
Yeah.
The brain hates change.
Oh yeah.
We all know that, right? The brain says don't change, because change for the physical brain is something dangerous.
Yes. It's like out of the comfort zone.
Right. What is she doing now? Why does she eat this? Eat that. Why don't you eat that? Please eat. God, where's my sugar? I need my sugar, right? We have all these ideas. The brain needs about 40 days to accept a change, a new concept. That's what people go through when they've never worked out, right? They're really heavy and then, oh God, my body hurts. I know it hurts. It will get better. After 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, the 40th day, they're running half marathons. You see, it takes about 40 days for the brain memory to change and say, oh, it's not dangerous. It's actually quite good. It's actually really good, because new neurons, new energy, new feeling. And, the butt looks good, the legs look good. It's also nice to have a little physical effect from it. But in the end of the day, it's these 40 days, right? When we go further and say, I want to master something, I want to master a tradition, master a concept, master an idea, you need 1,000 days. 1,000 is the number of completion and mastery. So that means 1,000 days, which is a little less than 3 years, I think. And then people say, well, 1,000 days. It's really just, a little more than 24 months, right? Oh, that doesn't sound so bad, you see. But then what I think, and this is what I want to motivate also the people who listen to you guys on this podcast, is to consider the preparation. Sometimes you're so motivated. That diet sounds great. We're going to start tomorrow. Unprepared. Give your body, your mind, your environment a chance to purge. You can't create organized thoughts in a messy room. Or when your dishes are not clean, but here you are meditating. Forget it. Wash your dishes. You see what I mean? So it's really important to create some preparation before I start a process, especially if it's a long process. In my tradition, we call it, in the Hermetic tradition, we call it path working. So you can do a 10-month path work or a 10-year path. I had students who did both, where they dedicate themselves for 1 year to one concept to achieve a 10-year aspect. And then I say, well, you're almost there. You're almost finished 10 years. What are you going to do the day after? Start again. You see, they got it. That was the answer. Start again. Because now I'm in a cycle of transcending, you see, of self-mastery. That is the idea. And when you allow your spirit to experience what you have, not what you should have, you're going to be a very happy soul when you leave this body, And that is the idea. There is no condition of if you do this for 3 months, you all will have the same experience. No, impossible. You will have some experience, but not the same, because we are all in our individual time frame dimensional realities. Yeah, that is the idea.
You gave us a lot to think about today.
Yeah, I love it. Lots of layers, lots of elements.
That's my magic.
Yeah, like you said, people are definitely going to be like, I'm not sure. You made me rethink everything, wait a minute.
Right.
I think that's good.
My thought process is always, I'm a very physical person. I'm a very grounded person in this reality. And I want spirituality to manifest. Otherwise, what the hell am I doing here? That's the whole point. Every time when I think I reached the highest point of understanding, here's the next point coming. I have to tell you, the universe is not disappointing in surprises.
Oh, yeah.
Poor Foster hears it every 10 years. I think I'm done with this. And here's the next layer coming. You see, not that I'm looking for it. It just shows up. It just shows up. And suddenly it gives me personally also a satisfaction. So I'm like, what? It was good. It was good what I've done. It helps. It motivates. And people come, and that's the biggest compliment. And they say, you just made things easier for me to understand.
That's beautiful.
And that is actually the nicest compliment. I understood it. Now I got it. Or, I tried to understand this concept for 10 years. I read about it and you just explained it to me and I got it. That's the greatest thing. That is where we witness and we contribute to dimensional shifts of consciousness.
Yes.
It's when the face changes, right? It's like
the aha moment.
That is the visual shift of time frame reality. Yeah. Yes. In psychology, they call it the breakthrough.
Yeah. Yeah.
10 years later, after talking about your mother all day, years, now is the breakthrough.
Now you get it.
Now you get it.
10 months or for 10 years.
There you go. Thanks for the condo, But, at this point, it doesn't matter how you get there. But I want to say, from a time element, time is very relative here.
Yeah.
Time is, you can bend time. It's very relative. Something that I have now a client, I'm working with her, and there was a result that should show up actually in a year. And she worked with a conditioning homework, and she said, I got it a week later.
Wow.
How is this possible? It's relative.
Yeah, it is
See?
relative.
And so, but again, she listened to my instructions, not mine, what came through. The instructions that were very specific to her. And she said, my God, I just maneuvered myself through something that could have been very complicated. I can't even talk about her job because it's national security. But she said, everything that was promised in a year literally condensed basically to a very short time frame, And I said,
Wow.
that is, the same, of course, you can elongate it.
Of course.
The same way. It's like, oh God, am I ready for this? I don't know if I want to do it. And here we elongate it. You see? So, you told me in a year I get this, I got it a year later.
Mm-hmm.
Time is very relative in spirit. See? Therefore, I always say in affirmations, I am, I have, I will. Excuse me, my will is. I define the very moment now, because time means on the other side now, yesterday, or in 10,000 years.
Yeah.
So express an idea in the here and now. I have, I own, I feel, I sense. And you need to add an emotion to it. How does it feel to have it, to experience it, to live it, to feel it, to sense it, to smell it, to taste it, to touch it? That is important, is to collect experiences, essential experiences. And that is what bends time. That's what bends time. Not visualizing and affirmation only and, think about it and the law of attraction brings it. No. See, can't ignore the other laws and just say law of attraction. It's not completely wrong, but it's incomplete the way it's described. It's like saying there's an engine, but I don't give you a key and no gas and no car, but enjoy the engine. What am I going to do?
That's a good one.
I mean, crazy, You have to learn to build your car, which is known as the Merkaba. The Merkaba is nothing but a construction which transcends you between time and space. And you can enter different dimensional realities and explore them and return here with that vibration. You can always come back to when you go into Akasha to read somebody, you're not coming back as who you are. You're coming back always with a layer of that vibrational element of Akasha.
Yes. You can totally tell, because you might have had a fight with somebody in your house, and then you just finished a reading an hour later and they're still mad, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that I was mad at you. That's right.
Exactly. In other words, when this experience is established, you can have a fight because that's human to have a disagreement, but it will not last. It will be always overwritten by what is higher vibration. Always. I have disagreements with Foster. I mean, more than enough. And, we're two very different dimensional beings sometimes. But never in the last almost 19 years, a disagreement was dominant. Never. We also don't like to be mad on each other. So we cross that bridge quite quick.
That's good.
But, it's petty. I'm more petty. But, and I enjoy it more when he suffers. So, but that's me.
You know yourself, and when you're in that energy, and you can correct, right?
Yes, but I never remain in an experience. And also, my experience, even if it's like anger or something, has nothing to do with it.
Of course.
Or anybody. You see, in that moment, I say, I'm going to be really pissed off now and mad. It has nothing to do with you. This is something I deal with myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't have this experience. You see, and that's why I consider myself a master, because I can tell that just because he was now a trigger in something, the outcome has nothing to do with him. You see, because what was there comes up basically. It's a reactive experience. And I'm very good in saying this has nothing to do with it. So I can be mad and very loving. I can be disappointed and it doesn't change what I feel. you see. And that is the key here. That is the inner work.
What you just said reminds me of what I always say to my partner. I love as hard as I hate.
You know, and both has to be there because, everyone wants peace and love and harmony, but chaos is so important because chaos allows restructure. Yes. Pure harmony is the death of everything good.
Transformation.
Absolutely. The word chaos means in Greek, of course, classic idea of chaos, but also it means rearrangement in a positive form, you see.
Wow.
So chaos is always good because it allows not only chaos, but some chaos is good because it allows a transcending, a transmutation of a situation that otherwise, peace and love and harmony. And then what? Peace and love and harmony. I mean, I'm dying for a fight, No, it's just not happening, not on this planet. As long as there's people on this planet, there's not going to be peace, you see. But it's also not necessary. What can be here is, how can I say this, is respect of the free will. Just because I don't agree, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Because I don't know where you come from, first of all. And second, I don't know clearly in what dimensional reality you are from where you experience certain things. So, if a dialogue is not possible in that, then at least acceptance is important. I get it. I get it. I understand it. And that's when Foster says, when it's quite obvious that I don't like somebody, it happens rarely, but there are sometimes people I just don't like. I mean, they're great. I just didn't happen to like them. I take this me totally aside and give the reading, which is, and he says, it's funny because you gave me a really good reading, very positive. I said, yeah, because it was not me. Because if it was me, I would say, go to hell, what do I care? But you're taking yourself out and you're doing the or you're executing the service. You see, unfortunately, also for me, these people really like my readings. Then, they want to study with me, and then they want to be here, and I'm like, oh God, now I can't get rid of them. You see, but again, this is the trick here: not to mix yourself up with other people's experiences. Hence, you see, we're back to protection. That's what real protection is. You see. And all I'm saying is, in general, how do I protect myself from all this is question the source of what you hear or the source of somebody's suggestion. You should look at this based on what? You see? Well, it's from here based on what? You need in this life, in this physical life, a reality anchor. There has to be an element, like we know that Bernie Madoff cheated people out of their livelihoods, for example. We didn't make it up. There was evidence, there was papers, money, transactions. We could follow his criminal act, and he ended up in jail. Right? He ended up in jail. I don't need to believe that. It's happening. Here it is. I can trace it back. And that is in Hermetics, by the way, which is my tradition. I come from something so elemental. Don't tell me stories. Show me what it's based on. Where is it coming from? What is the ingredient list? But don't make stories up and say, well, believe it. No. You see, Hermetics are very, very practical people. Therefore, I learned very, very, very early to be very, very, very blunt, because lying has no point here. What are you going to lie about?
Like someone that hears about what you do and doesn't believe in it, you can't prove that.
Right.
We can't prove that you're actually genuinely connecting to something. Like, how do you prove that?
You don't need to prove it. You don't need to prove it because you and or you two are individually in your dimensional reality where the connection to Akasha and all it provides is a reality. It's happening. It's your livelihood. It's your belief system. It's all there. Somebody who comes and says, I don't know if I can believe this, needs evidence. Needs evidence. Now, when I give a reading, for example, I try to find first a karmic frame or a past life influence which resonates to what they do now. And in 90% of all times, they say, this is exactly what I'm doing now. This sounds totally like me. Or now it makes sense why certain things happen. And now I can connect it. There you go. There you go. It is, in our business, it is the level of information. The information has to resonate. It has to resonate. So that somebody says, what did he say? Right? Or that sounds exactly like what I'm doing right now. That is not convincing that you are connected. This is evidence that you are connected. See, the evidence is the emotional shift that you're causing in someone. It's not mental, it's emotion. See? So the reality is, how often did I have people say, well, my wife gave me this session, my friend, my sister, I don't know what to expect. I said, let's make it nice. Let's make it nice. I introduced them. I guide them in. You see, I said, listen, we should talk about very logic things like decisions that are important, and then we can take it from there. Sometimes I know that they are not going to be open to a past life concept, or their faith doesn't permit it, or their religion doesn't permit it. So I don't go into it. I take the karmic frame because it shows up for me anyway, and I translate it and I web it into their experience and say, that's exactly what I'm doing. And in my head, I'm thinking, that's what you're always doing in past lives. But you see, I don't contradict the person's state of mind by proving that, and now you have to be very brave because in the past life you've been a bitch or a murderer or something. No. You see, that's the idea. The best conviction, the best proof that we have is truth. Is truth. When somebody says to me, I have no friends. Why don't I have friends? I said, because you're not a good friend. You don't need a psychic for this or a Akasha. You can tell, if you have no friends, it means that you are not a good friend to yourself and to others. You don't need to look into it. That's the idea. But when people show up, to a certain degree, they're open. They agree, you see. And when the first agreement feels good, then they stay. You can tell. I can tell with people, they relax. Okay, I'm safe here, you see. And this is so important when people say, how do I know that some reader or a magician or a healer is good? When you have a feeling of safety and when you are not conditioned in that safety. Now you have to come every week. Now you will need it every week because you're a mess. Now you have to come all the time. Now see, you feel better? Good. Now go home and maintain it. That's how I learned it. The goal is that people don't need you. That was the goal. When you have people always showing up with the same problem, it's bad. It's bad. Then it's a business. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people need it. They need this reconnecting every week with somebody. If it makes them happy and they have the money, it's okay. It's a job, right? But, right, the idea is take this information, record it, and then please go home and work with it. That's what I say to people. Because they say, how often can I do this? Really, just once, But again, I don't do any more live readings. I only go into periods. That's what it is. That's the period. And depending on how you maneuver yourself, there are certain outcomes that you can expect. If you want to feel ready to talk, we can go again. So I have people on a regular basis, which means once or twice a year. And we're going into small segments. You see, they can handle this better than at 35, at 55, at 75, and then, it's in God's hands. I used to do this. It was quite drastic, but also comfortable for me because I went in one contract line, you see. I said, well, that's what it is. Now do the best. That was harsh in retrospect, but some people liked it, they read it, but they said, can we do this in a smaller form? I said, sure, we can do. And that's how I learned to give the readings that I give. See, that's the idea. A reading is important to give safety. Very often, that is where I'm very grateful for my readings. When they come through, people say, I had so many thoughts like this, so many feelings, so many experiences, exactly like this. And I realized I wasn't that off. Isn't that great? I said, exactly.
Yeah,
I love that. That happens so much.
And that happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
And that is the best when they say, okay, so I'm not crazy. I don't make that shit up. It's actually very real, very much so. And this is the safety and the confirmation, you see, not you were meant to be something that you're not and you didn't reach it, but rather you're actually quite good where you are. And energetically you look good, and that looks right, and that makes sense. You see, I always try to balance the mind and the emotion. And the balance is, for me, security, is safety, is also trust in the source. They don't need to trust me. They have to trust in the source. That is the idea.
Yeah, it's funny. Most people already know what they are supposed to be doing or what's right for them. You're just repeating it to them. And since you're impartial,
right.
You're confirming it for them.
Right, exactly. I had yesterday a wonderful session with somebody who had who got paralyzed very early on. And to this day, they don't know what caused it. So I explained to him what caused it. It was quite easy. And then I talked to him about, how important it is to write about this and lecture about it and help others, who go through similar. And he says, I always thought about doing this. Duh. You see?
Yeah.
Says, okay, I'm not crazy. It's really something I should do. Yeah. You see? That is, I think, what gives people a lot of faith in their own experience. It doesn't have to be called spiritual or anything, but I'm not that way off. I'm quite good. I'm quite aligned with her. And most people are, by the way, you see. But then comes the but. Shouldn't I have been there already, or done this already, or been there? No, because you will only be there where you are in alignment. So when people say, am I even good where I am? You must be, otherwise you would not have a vibrational match with that experience. I had people who won awards and Oscars and all that stuff and say, was that even meant to be? I said, if it wasn't, you wouldn't have gotten it. So I'm meant to understand that I have talent. Yeah, obviously, because an award like this represents this in your profession. So you must have done something right to get it. You see, it is from the unconscious experience to the, okay, I can only experience something that I'm resonating with. And now comes the great adventure. What if I can control the resonance? What if I can dictate my resonance? Then literally, what karma? Karma is just a frame, but the whole substance of the karmic frame is lateral movement, constant energy, always in movement, always going this way or that way. That is the idea.
Amazing. Yeah. I love everything you said. I think it also resonates with a lot of the work that we do, and we just describe it in different words.
Right. Right.
I love it. I love it. I don't know if you want to ask any more questions, Lou, or
No, I got everything out of my system.
Yeah. Make sure to include all of your links. So I'll get all those from you, and we'll put those in the show notes and share those on social media so people can obviously contact you for readings and all that. But I don't know if you have any messages to say before we leave, before we kind of say goodbye.
A message: be kind to each other. Be kind without reason. You don't need a reason to be kind.
It's true.
That's all.
It's so true. I remind myself of that sometimes, like when I go out even to the supermarket, I'm like, why don't I just ask this person how their day is going, or help this person with this thing, or
right.
It's little things. It doesn't have to be, you have to go out of your way even that much, right? Just to be kind and just to be attentive.
I do this deliberately. And also interesting enough is when you do it, I say to people, look people in the eyes.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah, so they can feel you.
Oh, every day. I get sometimes quite compliments for my looks.
I love it.
And the looks. And when people say, that looks great on you, or that's amazing shoes, I said, you have very good taste.
You just turn it around. I love it.
Exactly. Because the fact is, if you, and I like avant-garde very much. And so it's not, people look at it and say, what the hell is that? But some people say, wow, these shoes or this look. And I said, you have exceptional taste, obviously.
I love it.
I love that. You know what I mean? You can take a compliment and multiply it, because if you like what I'm wearing, obviously you have amazing taste, but it also means that you are open.
Yeah.
You see, that looks very different. That is, or when they say only you can wear this, only you, that looks great. I said, you have a very keen eye for art. You see? And that's what I tell my students. Take a compliment, turn it around, and also be honest. Like when you say, very standardized in US, they say, how are you? Mm-hmm. Right? How are you today? And I look at them and said, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I'm really, now it's getting much better because, you're taking care of my stuff, and I will go home and you package it so nice. And she said, you're so nice. And it shouldn't be an exception. You see what I mean? Yeah. But I say, I'm great. Thanks.
Yeah, like faking it. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm getting better today. Or sometimes I say, you know what? I'm blessed. And they stop and say, God, I have to remind myself I'm blessed too. I said, are we both blessed somehow? She says, yeah. Yeah, we're blessed. So it changes the trajectory of an energy. See?
And gets them thinking too, right?
Oh, yes. It costs nothing to be kind. Mm-hmm. I think that is one of the most important. Not agreeing. It doesn't matter how extreme somebody's opinion is or how much it is the opposite of what I sense and feel is right. It doesn't justify for me to be unkind.
Right.
You see?
Yeah.
That's all.
It's something we all need to work on right now.
Isn't it?
Every single one of us, yeah.
Absolutely. And also don't forget to be kind to yourself.
Yes.
Because external kindness will do nothing unless you start with the kindness to yourself.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much.
We
really, really, really appreciate you coming on again. I'm thinking back to the first time you were on with Foster, and you're like, we're going to be back.
I remember we were so nervous.
I was like, he thinks he's going to be back? I'm like, this is great. And you've been back a bunch of times now. So
yeah. I'm very grateful if people find it interesting and it gives them a little spark of motivation. Oh, by all means.
Yeah. It helps. It helps. Yeah, it definitely helps. It's great.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll obviously have you on again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, the usual.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope that you enjoyed that episode with Kristos. We are so grateful for him coming on to the podcast. Thank you so much, Kristos. Thank you for sharing so much wisdom, so much information, for helping us see situations and kind of just the spiritual realm in a different perspective. We really appreciate when people can come on and really do that and help us grow and expand. So make sure to tune in next week for a new episode on Monday, and we're sending you lots of love and light, and we will catch you next time. Bye, guys.